What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord. Super excited to be here with my new dudes. Super excited to be here with Cody and Christian. Guys, thanks so much for taking the time. It was a blast being on your channel last week, and super excited to have you guys this week. How you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Yeah,
Thanks for
doing
having us.
fantastic. I really appreciate being here, man.
Dude, so pumped to have you guys. So, well, for all intents and purposes, I'll be the old dog here. I don't get to do that very often because I hang out with Dion and Zoob, and they're so much older than me. And less pretty, I have to say. Well, at least less bearded. But super excited to be with you guys today. So, talk to me a little bit about, for those people who don't know, first you have your massive, huge smash success, the most viral video ever on Bigger Pockets. But let's kind of take that a step further. How did that even happen?
Yeah, so it all started out. I actually started my investing career just 3 years ago at 19 years old, dropped out of college. Fast forward 3 years, I bought my first 12-plex and since then scaled to 105 rental units and actually ended up consulting one of Brandon Turner's friends. And I was consulting him on seller finance real estate. He made the connection and then got on Bigger Pockets earlier in January of this year.
That's awesome. Fantastic. Christian, how did you guys kind of form the alliance that you guys have now? Because it's pretty cool. I haven't found
Yeah,
anybody that's willing to tolerate me in a room for more than a half hour. So
yeah, and well, we've run into a lot of that too. And we've had some partners that are just awful. It's really hard to find a good partner. For us, the way it worked is
yeah.
we ended up working at the same company. I was working for CoStar for years, and I actually left. I hit my BS threshold in the pandemic when they're like, "You're a outside sales rep, but you're not allowed to meet anyone for the next like 2 years." I was like, "Well, that sucks." So
Tough to
was
make
up
the
working.
number. Yeah, tough to
Yeah,
make the number when you
exactly.
can't meet with people.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna hit my quota for client visits this year. But we came through. I ended up working at the same company at the same time. That prompted me to finally become an investor. So one of the first rules we share on our channel, the easiest way to become an investor is to be an investor. So go buy a darn property. So I
Sure.
bought my first duplex, bought my second duplex. It was right across the street from Cody's sixplex that he had just bought seller financed. So I'd had this crazy goal, want to hit 30 units by 30 years old. I was
And
like halfway through 29.
yeah, and as far as like pacing in our story, I had bought that sixplex as my third property in March of 2021, so about a year ago. And Christian bought his deal in about June of 2021.
So recent property neighbors were in the same market, found out that I loved this market because that deal was a home run and a half.
Yeah.
That was a duplex where one side covered just barely more than the debt on the duplex when I was done with this. So, I mean, home run duplex. But that spurred me being across the street from him. He was 21 with 30 units. I was like, a home run duplex is not as cool as a really good sixplex. And then I looked at his 12 plexes and I was like, wait, there might be something to this building size thing. So communicated my goal to Cody of I'm trying to hit 30 units by 30. You did it by 22.
21.
Yeah, 21. How do you recommend I try to do something similar? I only have like 6 months to operate. He's like, well, can't help you there, but there is a 38 unit that we can buy. That puts you at 42, not 30. But it was more project than Cody wanted to take on by himself, doubling his portfolio or more than doubling it.
Sure.
And for me, that's like just mega adding to my portfolio. Going to 4 to 42 units was a jump, but we did that. It rocked. Found out we worked amazingly together, and from there we started an education company and a property management company and bought a ton of other multiplexes together.
Very cool. So talk to me a little bit about, you use the word home run a couple of times. And I think that home run is subjective, right?
Yes.
I've certainly seen some markets where the guy's like, yeah, 3.5%. It's a grand slam. I was like, oh my word. I wouldn't get a bed for 3.5 points. But if that's all your market's going to yield, that's what your market's going to yield. Your only other choice is to pick a different market. So talk to me a little bit about what home run means to you guys.
Our first deal together, we bought it for $2 million and they wanted negative cash flow at 15 grand a month.
Home run.
Home run. Wait, but we got it backwards. It was the wrong way. But no, the cool part about that deal, we bought it with zero money. And within 6 months, we were able to quintuple the income. We've still got another $11,000 on the rent roll, but the total cost of debt, operating expenses, everything adds up to about $17,000 a month.
Okay.
Today the rent roll is just south of 26. We have a couple remodel units that we're just finishing up that we're going to get on the market. And so the cash flow's already there day one, but we've got another 11,000 to go. And so we're looking at it, it's like, okay, this thing could cash flow close to 20,000 a month on a 0 down deal.
Yeah.
And we bought it
Returns infinite.
self-financed.
Yeah, returns infinite. Yep.
Now we've got multiple 6 figures in renovation that we had
Yes.
to either get from the cash flow of the assets as we got the income up, or from the First National Bank of Cody and Christian. However, it's pretty freaking good.
Yeah, spent a few $100,000 on renovation. Bought for $2 million. Appraisal came in 3-4 weeks ago at 3.41 million.
Fantastic.
So that to us is a home run deal. On a duplex though, when you come in, I ended up buying for 212. I don't advocate selling buildings. We almost never do it. I sold this one to buy up into a 12-plex that Cody owned.
I needed cash because I got in a bad position from an old business partner.
So to balance out the partnership, to bail Cody out, and to scale myself, everyone won on this. 9 months after I purchased that first duplex, sold it for 365.
Awesome. Did you
Didn't
do
put a whole lot
any reno, any changes, any updates, or was as is, or a little bit of
No, we did a good deal of reno. I
Okay.
put a new roof on it, redid the unit. So I put 50,000 in.
Okay.
However, I bought it 101% financed hard money. We did the flip in 2 months, and then I refinanced into 3% bank debt.
So he turned his 50,000 into like $130, and then he turned his $130 into like $330, and he got a free 10-plex out of it because when he bought into the 12-plex with me, we relevered that to go buy a 10, seller financed, of course.
Nice.
Yeah. Now that's a little bit more complicated, so we don't talk about that too much on our channels because we like to keep things fairly simple. And so we're like, well, I flipped into this, then this, then this, and that's how we tripled the money in 12 months. That's not usually how we play it, but that is how we did that particular one. But when we say home runs, it's when you have multiples of your original income in a relatively short period of time.
And I'm the math guy because it was actually 6.5x, not triple.
No, yeah, that's a good point.
And see, here's the key, is that I think for a lot of folks, they might get married to the asset, right? That's one of the things that I see where they're just like, geez, I really like that property. I really like that property. I'm like, it's a building. It's not, you weren't born there. You know, some special, crazy, great event didn't happen there. And even if it did, I am all about best use of capital. I call it the buck method, best use of capital. That's every single time. That's where I want my money in a deal. I want it best use of capital. And so now you guys are rolling. Now, truth be told, hottest market ever, right? You guys haven't experienced a garbage market yet. So the risk, right? The risk that's coming. The key is that you guys have phenomenal debt based on what your income is. And so let's talk a little bit more about that $2 million property that's now, reassessed at or reappraised at 343 or 341. That property that you bought at a couple of $1,000,000, and that was also 0% down, right?
Yeah, we bought it with zero money out of pocket.
God, that's awesome. And then you buy that at 0 down, then you put a couple hundred into it so far. So what do you think? What's your typical cost per unit that you're doing? Are you doing floors, cabinets? Again, I'm the lumberjack landlord, so I want to know what you're doing inside these units.
Yeah, so our most expensive unit, we did $90 $90 a foot. We did everything.
Okay.
But today
square footage of those is are all
that was a
the same
small
size?
unit. That was our smallest unit we've ever had. That was a 300 square foot studio.
Okay.
That we blew 27,000 on.
Got it.
And since then we've went from working with the highest grade contractor that keeps upcharging us. Like, we're done with it. He's gone over 50% on bids, and we're just like, okay, goodbye.
Yeah, I'm not working with him without a
do not exceed.
Not to exceed. Yeah, not to exceed. Yep. So real quickly, that's something I want to share with my viewers and yours too that come and watch this video. The not to exceed number. You need to make sure if you're new in this business or newer in this business that you get a not to exceed number, because it is literally 2 pieces of paper that they have to fill out, and they can put a lien on your property. and then you can't refinance it and you can't sell it. So it's critical that you get that not to exceed, because for you guys could take the blow. You know, you guys could take a 20,000 or 15 or $10,000 hit. Typical
17.
landlords. Sorry. So I appreciate you admitting that, and I don't edit, so it's staying. But I think the challenge is that a lot of people can't take that hit, right? You guys can take the hit. You guys are grinding through. You guys are, making great investments, getting some fantastic turnaround. But that not to exceed piece, I think that you brought it up because now it's something that you kind of learned in the last, year or 6 months with that contractor. Are you still doing business with that contractor with a not to exceed, or have you been able to just find essentially a replacement?
So we have someone, it's more of a handyman. He's
Okay.
replacing floors, cabinets, countertops, and it comes in a lot less. I mean, we're spending
Sure.
less than half of what we were.
And the work's the same.
Yeah.
If not even better. We found a really good handyman who just
Just wants to make a living.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely personal question. Don't have to answer this. Do you bonus him?
I have.
Yeah. Good.
We bought him a truck.
Yeah, we bought it. We did buy him a truck.
Yeah, he was like, I need a truck, and I found this one. Can I do some work? And we were like, it wasn't an expensive truck. Like, here, have a truck.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
So we are really big on bonusing our guys. When we hit a home run on a deal, when we get out of something, when they do something faster, when they spent the extra time, of course we pay them for their hours, but we like to bonus them on top of that because you always wish you could get the unit done faster. So I love that you guys bonus your guys. I think that's a huge thing. That's how I treat all my contractors. There is not one guy that I do business with that hasn't been bonused. And the longer you've been with me, the more you've been bonused. So in this $2 million property now assessed for appraised for 341, how many of those 38 units have you guys redone?
We're probably at 10.
Yeah, 9 or 10.
10 you've done or 10 left?
10 we've done.
Okay. What do you see increase in rents in those units versus the ones that haven't been redone?
Yeah, so the ones that haven't been redone, we're getting, like for a 2-bed, we get 900, and for the ones we've redone, we're getting 1150. But market rent's much higher. It's just when you have a complex that we haven't done all of the painting yet, we haven't done all of the landscaping yet. We're doing projects as we can. When it's all done, it's just gonna be a nicer place overall to live. But
100%.
right now it's kind of a project, so people are paying a little bit less.
Do you guys in your model, do you ever account for the return on capital that you get when you're doing rehabs? Because your return on capital, I think as investors and operators, most of us will look at the return on capital or the yield that we're getting on the deal on the house or the building that we're buying. A lot of guys, I don't think, spend any time looking at the return on capital they're getting for the money that they're reinvesting in the unit. Do you guys look at that at all?
We do when we pitch it to the investors to show them, hey, this is what we've done. Like when we have friends who are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
However, we don't really care, because for us, like how do we buy it? How do we never lose it? That's what we care about. And if we can own a better asset, it's a better asset. So
Sure.
Yeah, it's a blend of the two. We do look at it. We are aware of it. Like there's certain things on that 38. We put drywall in over the brick because so it doesn't look like a prison cell.
Okay.
Didn't realize the labor hours for that are as high as they are. They're insane.
So
They
we
are.
spent $5 to $6 grand per unit to drywall. I was like, this sucks.
And they're little units. And I was like, oh, okay, well, fine, just paint those. That's a terrible return on.
But
Yeah,
we, 5 units later, we blew 35 grand on drywalling, just a handful of units. It's like, well,
so you need to know that number
Yeah.
so you can analyze it. But for the most part, you look at these and it's like I want these to be a place that I would want to live. So
Absolutely.
I think more than the return, we want to have nicer assets. We do look at it so there's no major holes in the game plan. We're not just blowing money, but
Yeah.
it's a balance between the two.
There definitely is.
And there's some math.
Well, listen, you'd be like every other investor on the planet that looks at it and says, I'd much rather have a second building than a nicer first. Like that's kind of how it goes, is that you're trying to walk that fine line of, I want a unit. Our rule is that we'll only rent out a unit that we would live in.
Yep.
But at the same time, but at the same time, I'm also looking at, okay, what's the buck method here? What's my best use of capital? If I buy this building, it's going to give me 22% return. If I rehab all those units, I'm going to get a 13% return. Decision made.
Yeah,
Mhm.
today we won't buy another asset before building up the ones we own because we have enough
Okay.
to where we just pay it off. We're set. So we're remodeling everything and buying nicer assets. So the one that we're working on buying right now is Class A. We don't have like it's waterfront Class A asset. We don't have to do upgrades to it, so we can justify buying that. But before we go buy a bunch more fixer uppers, bunch more projects, we're finalizing all the renovations on our current ones
Sure.
because yeah, we can always go get that next return. But what's more valuable than that to us is solidifying what we built because we're at the point where if we lost it, I don't see that happening because of our debt service coverage ratios. But if something went wrong,
Sure.
it would be very painful.
Yes, it would be. That is an accurate statement. When the '08 crash happened, I was an investor. And
Mm.
so we almost went bankrupt 3 times because the numbers quickly reversed. It was, I have $18,000 a month in liabilities and I've got $5,000 a month worth of income.
Nah,
Ow.
not good.
And yeah, I mean, those are bad numbers. And the problem is that literally the month before it was 2118.
Oh yeah, that's pretty tight.
Yeah, 2118. And the month before that, it was like 2818. So it was, I mean, it was easy. I was in great shape. And then it was 21, and then it was 5. And then I was like,
Wow.
Houston, we have a problem. This is going to go sideways fast. And I had home equity lines shut off on me without any notice. I literally got the notice in the mail. It came a week after all my checks bounced. So I lived that, and that was literally banks literally shutting down lines of credit, HELOCs, anything that was open that showed exposure on their balance sheet, they shut down. So you guys being where you are now and looking kind of for that next, kind of bringing your units up to par. By the way of which, I recommend my phenomenal series on my show, which is the Lumberjack Landlord Product Review Series, because we've done 100 rehabs. So we actually found the right products to buy for the right price that give us a phenomenal return, and they're much less expensive. I do my rehabs between 10 and 13% less expensively than my competition, which actually drastically improves what I can pay for a unit. So that's something that's pretty powerful. But when you guys are going in and redoing these, are you doing cabinets and floors and bathrooms and shower,
Yeah,
all that stuff?
yeah. Our
Nice.
goal is get it done so that it's done because you don't have to redo granite.
Mhm.
Yeah, like once it's granite, maybe you have to replace in the future, but it's
If you do, it's on the tenant's dime.
right,
Like something didn't naturally happen to the granite, right?
right.
So based on the deals that you've done so far, what's your favorite deal? And then what is the one where you're like, oh, sweet Lord, this one's just, and it might be, it's not only the money, it's truly maybe experiential or what you learned or who you did it with, or talk me through that. Favorite deal and least favorite deal.
I'll do a quick one on my favorite one because it's one of the least significant deals we've done. I just loved how the deal went. We have these 3 cute little duplexes. They're on
Pheasant apartments.
Pheasants apartments. They're on their own little road. They're side by side, beautiful backyards. Cody's actually never been inside them. I've been inside them once. But turnkey sale. The reason it's my favorite deal is the guys who seller finance to us are the ones who taught us how to do a lot of the stuff that we do actually no money down. They taught a whole bunch of strategies, and they're like, as you get bigger, we can sell you something today, you improve it, and then we can put a second on it as the down payment and a seller finance note on another property, and this property can buy the next property. And I was like, that's so simple. They're like, this is how you get your properties to buy your other properties. But getting to learn from them was really fun. When we actually got to the close there, their closing statement was made in Excel. It was like this big. It was the simplest transaction I've ever done. Totally smooth sailing. The other part that was really fun about that deal, besides the fact that we loved the sellers and they did exactly what they said they would, and it was great, was our investor on that was someone I just had met. We'd had coffee a few times, and one phone call to raise the capital. Like, hey, we need $90,000. He's like, gosh, I have this crazy goal of doubling my money every 5 years. It's like, well, this money starts a little low on cash flow and will become a cash flow monster in about a year. What if we just wrote a 2-to-1 and we keep the cash flow? It's like, sure. So
Have a buyout agreement built into the.
yeah. So we bought a property for $0 out of pocket, the cash flow day one. So we just get paid to own the property for 5 years. And then we refi, and that should more than cover the nut for cashing them out in 5 years. We'll probably actually just cash them out in the next
Out of earned income.
out of earned income in the next 6 months to a year. And away we go. But I loved the deal because it was fun, it was easy, and the relationships on both sides. We got a new deal structure and a ton of education.
My favorite property is my first 12.
Oh, it's so pretty.
It's beautiful. It's a really cool. It's got a lot of cool cement work and walkways. Got
Very
laundry
cool.
rooms. Yeah, it's got 2 laundry facilities in it. So I mean, it's just fun. Corner lot, retaining walls, beautiful yard, sprinkler systems built in.
Next to a church and a school.
Yeah, next to Microsoft. It's
just a good. His first deal was such a good deal.
and I bought it with no money out of pocket. So
Tell them about the length of your debt on that.
and yeah, 30-year fixed rate seller finance note.
Awesome. What rate?
6.
I mean, you're an
It
investor.
flows. And my payment's $6,078 a month, and we just did $150 rent bumps. By we, I mean my property manager Hannah. She's a favorite person ever, but she just did $150 rent bumps on the whole thing, and we have 2 vacancies that I'm releasing. So day 1 rent roll was $9,700.
Mm.
Today it's going to be closer to $13,000.
That's fantastic. So double.
It's well, no, not double. It went from 97 to
Oh, well, six is your cost basis though.
yes.
Yeah. 6 is your cost basis, and so you're almost double that.
It's a good deal.
Yeah. P.S. Put that on the spreadsheet I showed you.
Yes. Yeah, that's been over 3 years. So
That's awesome.
the seller didn't want me to refi, so they put a $150,000 prepay penalty on it for 10 years.
I mean, let's be honest. It's quote unquote expensive debt right now for this second, or it was maybe a year ago. It's not anymore. It won't be for the next 10 years or 8 years.
3 years ago, it sucked because I had a second mortgage for $1,250, and so I was cash flowing like all in all with all utilities and management and everything because I had Appfolio and all that back then. It was like $800 a month net. It was so skinny when my average rent was $800 or less, and so I couldn't have a vacancy. And luckily, I didn't for a whole year.
That's
but
awesome.
Then I had a water heater go out and it sucked that all up. And so now, when it's fully leased out, cash flow $3,500 to $4,000 a month versus $800. It's just better.
So one of the things I always like to talk about is time in the market will always beat time in the market.
Yes.
And I think a lot of investors make that mistake. It's one of the constant arguments I have with people like, oh, but it's so expensive. No. Just look at the paper. Look at the return on the capital now. Then look at the fact that rents haven't gone down in 100 years, and my numbers make more sense than yours. I know that you know more than me about investing because you have 0 properties, but these are the numbers that I've run through.
Yeah, but it was so tight in the beginning.
Sure.
But barely squeaked by. Granted, you can't go bankrupt when you don't have any bank loans, but man, it sucked when something went wrong.
Yeah, well, because you're writing a check, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And when you don't have a lot of money, it comes out of the reserve account or it goes on a credit card. And that's how it was for a while. I had a bad business partner a while ago, and he told me he paid all the property taxes before I knew better. And I ended up having to throw over a year and a half of 12 plexes on a credit card.
Oh, it was nice that they took a credit card.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Because because the other option is literally writing one of those credit card checks where then it's like, then that's considered cash. And so then it's like 30%. It's
not
brutal.
Good.
Yeah. I've seen that done before. So least favorite deals.
My least favorite that we did was, and granted, it was still a good deal. And I still like the properties. We haven't done a lot that I hate, but I think my least favorite we bought a pair of triplexes a little while back, and they're great properties and good locations. The only thing is we didn't need to buy them. They're really small. We bought them because we hadn't bought anything in a while. Our brand seller financing. I was like, this would be a good marketing piece. We should be under contract for something.
We just did it to do it.
Yeah, and I don't like just doing a deal to do it. Like, they make money, they make sense.
Our mortgage payment on one is $956 a month on a triplex, and it's waterfront. So I mean, it makes money. And the other one, the payment's $1,050. I think it's $1,052 a month. And those units rent out for $900, $945, and $975. So they make money.
Yeah.
But they're just really small, and it's one of the only deals where we don't have a relationship with that owner. Like, it was on market. I've never talked to the owner. We messed up a little thing in the paperwork that got fixed, but it took us like 4 months to get a hold of the owner to fix it.
And by we mean our broker.
Yeah, and by we I mean, yeah, it's not always perfect. So it was a headache, and the way that the note was wrote, it's like, well, we should get this resolved, but in the off chance the seller doesn't sign this, you may or may not owe $35,000 of late fees. I was like, well,
they wrote the first payment date before we closed.
Yeah.
And so we'd always been late. And they also wrote the late fee of $100 a day.
150
per property. Oh yeah. So it was $300 a day in late fees for half a year.
And it took 4 months to reach them. So it's just like, it wasn't too bad when I caught it in week 2. I was like, we should be able to get this fixed. And then, 3.5 months later, we finally get a hold of the seller, and it was
they weren't too interested in taking your call to give some of their money back.
They were super nice. They were just out of country. They're like, I finally sold those darn things, and they just left the country for half a year.
It's good to be the king, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Of
so
a little triplex.
Yeah, but very nice seller. Very they were able to help us out. But when your only experience with it was like a mild headache for 4 months, I'm like, I didn't love that deal.
No, and they'll never make us that much money. I mean, we bought it because more deals. Great, more land control, get some waterfront, get another triplex next to the 38 because it's on the same street, but wouldn't do it again because triplexes can't really make you that much money. I mean, unless you have a ton of them, but the triplex will never outcompete the 38 unit.
Yeah,
that's true. The only thing that you'll probably find a difference, and I'm interested to see if you guys see it in your market. In my market, a triplex, I get a premium on rents versus a large building that might be 12 to 18 units. I'm getting a higher market price per square foot in a tri than I am in a big building.
Yep, we get the same on ours. However, you have to have top line to get bottom line, and so you can only have so much top line on a triplex. Even if you got $2,000 a unit in rent, it's like, okay, well, $6,000. Your expenses aren't going to be a high percentage on a $2,000 rent. But
yeah, I think one of the cool things about that too is seller financing is a big difference maker there, because debt structure on that deal with the bank would suck. And so that's the other thing too is liquidity. If you couldn't offer that seller financing, then you are going to a bank, and then that's going to absolutely be the guide by which profitability is then measured, because it's your exit isn't your ability to offer seller-based financing. So I love the strategy because you're getting it seller-based financing, which gives you a ton of control. The challenge is from an exit perspective, your exit's going to be very different if someone can't get seller-based financing. Would you guys ever do seller-based financing yourself and be the note holder?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that's where we were at, like we were just talking about this recently on our 38. If we wanted to sell it, if someone wanted to put, if they want to knock out our debt and they just put us as the first, I'd be open to that.
So you would do it, but you wouldn't do it if you were second.
Not right now. Someday in the future, sure, but right now it probably wouldn't make sense for us. But if they put us in first, even if it was at 6% interest only for a couple of years, we'd cash flow $8,500 a month on $1.7 million note, and then we bought it. We only have a couple $100,000 of our own money in reno, so it's like, okay, $8,500 a month on a couple $100,000. You don't have to work for it. We're just note holder. That's a great deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's the money with none of the landlord calls.
right. And then we could sell the note if we want to. If we wanted-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, because I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't understand. That is probably one of the hardest things that I've encountered in the seller-based financing side of things, is articulating to them and having them really get the concept that they now have a note on a property that is 100% resellable.
Well,
If you go ahead.
yeah, I mean, the main thing a lot of people don't understand is a note's only good if it's backed by something that's worth it. So you look at the loan to value and then you look at the payment history. I mean, if the payment history is there, you're just buying an income stream.
Yep.
And you're buying an equity position in an asset in the event that the income stream stops. So if you're buying an income stream that's never missed a payment, then it's really easy to sell because people like annuitizing what they've built.
Yep.
And so if someone gets a whole bunch of cash, they could trade all the cash for basically an annuity, which is just a month, a
Which is
monthly
just
payment.
a note on a piece of property, right?
Yeah. And then they just become like, if they have to foreclose, like in our position, we're at 55% loan to value when we do our refi, but right now our loan to value is less than $1 million. I mean, we owe less than $1.7 million. It's like $1,670,000 right in there. It's worth over 3.4.
Right.
So if someone wanted to buy the note from the seller, all of a sudden they're getting a 50% discount on the asset in the event that we F up.
Might need to talk to that seller of yours. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But so one of the things that to also consider that I think a lot of people miss as well, a lot of the crisis videos, they talk a lot about foreclosure. What about foreclosure? We haven't talked about this in the past. What's your guys' view on that?
Clickbait. I just, there's
Everything
deals,
I could have asked for. Thanks, Christian.
There's so much cash.
Right.
yeah, we're printing
Right.
so much darn
Oh.
money. A good deal bought on fundamentals and whatever principles
Good fundamentals.
good fundamental. Yeah, there's fundamentals that I've seen that don't work. Bought on solid principles. If you're just buying deals for cash flow
on long-term debt or no debt at all. I mean,
Yep.
that's the safest way. But
yeah, but who cares where the rest of the market is? If you're getting paid to wait for the next market cycle, who cares? You need long-term fixed rate debt or no debt.
Yep.
And you need cash flow. And if it does those two things, I just don't care about it. Like in an up market, everyone complains, oh my gosh, the prices are too high, but there's low interest. Then the interest goes up and everyone's like, oh my gosh, the debt's too expensive. I'm like, yeah, but now the prices are coming down. It's like, there's always an opportunity to buy. There's just different conditions.
Yeah. So one of the, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was saying even the deals that we just kind of weaseled into just to buy it, the cash flow is ridiculous.
Right. So a couple things on that front, because I'm kind of PTSD'd out with these crisis videos. So one of the things that I think that a lot of these crisis video guys make, and what they don't understand, is a very simple concept of equity. If you've got that property that's 3.4, even based on appraised value, and you owe 1.7 on it, but your debt service is half what your monthly income is on it, all you have to do is stop improving units. Like you can pause. You can completely pause, stop improving, stop capital investment, become only a service-oriented landlord for the time being while the numbers shake out. But if you guys go to 50% or 40% or 60% occupancy, you're still making the nut on the monthly. And even if the rates get crazy bad and the asset goes down 40%, you still got another, $300,000, $400,000 of equity still sitting in the property. So I wanted to kind of take you guys through that exercise, because so often I hear how I'm an idiot. And while for a number of reasons I do qualify as such, not with my real estate investing, because the numbers don't lie. The return on capital, the equity that's there. I don't own one property from 10 years ago that isn't worth 3 times what I paid for it. So let's just say the market corrects and the market goes down 40% or 30%, whatever. Let's say some crazy number. It's still worth twice what I paid for it. But more importantly, if that happens, I still have the same cash flow. My cash flow didn't go down.
Right.
My cash flow, like most people don't know this, but in 8, 9, and 10, Rents went up. They did not go down. And they went up at a faster than historic average. The other thing that I wanted to ask you guys too about was when we're looking at those kinds of deals, right? When we're looking at people talking about crash this, crash that, and well, you never know what's going to happen. Well, with 30-year fixed rate debt, I got a pretty good idea. But as you're looking at those assets and as you're evaluating the deals that you're looking at, is it always best use of capital, i.e. the one that gives you the highest return, whether it's a 5-unit or a 50-unit? Or do you consider the size of the deal, like all things being equal or close to equal? Do you consider the size of the deal in that metric?
Size of the deal matters a lot.
Okay.
Right now, I mean, we're not looking to buy duplexes. I mean, granted,
I'm not offended.
No, I love our duplexes, and there's
my favorite deals are duplexes.
There's a place in Moses Lake where we know an owner, and they've got 5 side-by-side duplexes, and then one block over they got another 3. I'm like, shoot, if we could pick up 8 duplexes in 1 block radius, heck yeah, because I'll buy that, but
one by itself.
Yeah. But I wouldn't want to buy one of them by itself because it can't make enough money. The deal we're working on buying right now, I'm actually going to be moving on site. I'm going to be house hacking a seller financed resort. That'll be its own Saturday video. Awesome. That's gonna be fun. But that thing optimized can make $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, $1 million, or I could buy 8 duplexes that rent out for $1,250. And I start doing the math. I'm like, well, the duplexes could never make what this is going to make.
If you guys could go back 1 year and tell yourselves something, what would it be?
Don't buy those damn triplexes. No, still, I mean, maybe would have bought them, but just think bigger.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to put together the 38 with ease. And if we just thought a little bigger, I think we would be a little further, but we also did a lot. I mean, we did quite a lot considering a year ago I had 30 units and Christian had 4.
Yeah, I don't know that I've seen. I'm sure I know for a fact people have done this, but we made the decision really early on to put it all online. So I don't know of anyone who went as fast as we did and shared it all online.
No.
That being said, I mean, even from like some of our meetings earlier this morning, it's like we have very, very, very little resistance, and by little I mean none, putting together a $4.5 million deal without using any of our own money. So my advice to myself would be, go back and think bigger. If we were picking up 38 plexes, we probably could have done the same thing, bought a bunch more buildings like that.
Yeah, and like we can just collateralize our assets if we need money. Like we needed $200,000, and we got $200,000 out of an asset, and then we bought another asset, and now that one's sub 70% loan to value. Okay, we can just pull money out and place it elsewhere, and then use all the cash flow to pay down the equity again. I mean, pay down the debt. So
yeah,
we could have just bought bigger, but we still got the desired goal. We had a 2-year of let's get to 100 units, and we did it in less than 12 months.
Yep. Do you look at this coming market as what would be the one word that you would describe what you believe the coming market's going to look like? One word.
Opportunity.
That was my word. Yep.
Christian and I think the same way, so we can always say what the other person's saying without talking about it.
I want volatility. It's just going to change. I don't know if I think we're printing money fast enough where we're not going to see prices drop. That's just I mean, maybe a little dip in like houses,
but we don't care about those.
Yeah, but in multifamily, I don't see prices dropping because rents are going to.
And they're always on a 12-month lag because of the lease turnover time. So it's great.
Yeah. So I'm looking at that. That's what I think will happen, but I don't care. The only thing I know that's happening right now is that's changing. We've been on this ridiculous run where money's been very, very cheap for a very long period of time. Mm-hmm. That's never going to last forever. So that's going to change. Yep. Since we're doing something different, whatever the clickbaity title is, it's going to crash. It's going to go up. It's going to go down. Whatever the change is, people tend to sideline themselves when there's change to wait till it stabilizes, which just means we got to go out and take the field because a lot of the institutional players are going to take a step back. And so I am Opportunity would be the word.
Yep, I agree. I've got three PNSs out right now. 100% agree with you. Yep, this is the opportunity because everyone's like, well, what are rates going to do? I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, what are values going to do? Don't care. Well, what's the market going to do? Don't know, don't care. Doesn't matter to me.
Seeing as banks keep turning me down last minute, I don't really care where rates go. I don't care what the value is because I've got all my seller notes.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not playing the market and I'm not timing the market. So what the market does is not my game. It's just
Exactly.
it's not a factor in the rules that we're playing with.
Exactly. You buy the asset based on the return on capital that you're getting at time of acquisition and what your acquisition cost is. That's it.
And the return doesn't matter as much as just the pure cash flow to me.
Yeah, and that's really truly what I mean by that, because I never, just so you guys know, I never count on appreciation. That is a metric that I don't give two you know what's about, because no one has a crystal ball. No one knows if they're going to find plutonium 7 feet off the back door of one of my properties. Never.
Oh shoot, we weren't supposed to underwrite for that. I've counted it in for every deal.
And that's the thing, is that's what I look at, and I just say, what's that return on capital going to be for that deal right now? Today, day one, I wrote the note to the tenants. I have my little love note that I send to them. What is that making me day one when I get all their rent checks? So absolutely love spending some time with you guys. It was fantastic. Any other thoughts that you have for folks before I let you go? And I want to talk about your course after you give any thoughts, if you have any.
I just say keep it simple. Everybody wants to overcomplicate it. It's not difficult to do seller finance deals. It's not difficult to do the math. And it's not difficult to buy deals without any money. So simplify the game.
Yeah, not adding steps is key. We've gotten almost every phone call that I get is, what do I need to do for my LLC structure and who am I using for property management? I'm like, well, depends on what you own. Well, I don't own anything yet. Okay, there's your problem. You want to be if you want to be an owner, you have to own something. So find the deal and keep it really simple. And yeah, don't add steps.
Yeah, why do you need a management company if you don't have anything to manage? Well, I need to prep for the future. I'm like, well, go make your future first.
You need to, I always tell people, if you're going to do your first few units, do not hire a management company. You need to know that they are ripping you off when they're ripping you off. And you'll never know that if you didn't manage that building for a year in of itself, right? That building that you owned for a year, you did a little bit of work on, and then all of a sudden you're getting monthly invoices for all the work that it needed. What do you mean? It went a year, it didn't do any, we did very little, and now every month I'm getting $200 a month in fix-it stuff. I don't believe you. So I always push people, manage your asset at the beginning. If you really want to turn it over, at least know your building, know the trade, know exactly what they're going to get you on. That way, when you interview them, you're going to be far more intelligent when you interview those property managers, but you're going to be far more intelligent when it comes to seeing that report that you get on a monthly basis, where you're just like, how is it that I'm writing checks now every month to own this building ever since I got a property manager? That's usually the difference. So guys, talk to me a little bit about, we'll close on this. Talk to me a little bit about your guys' course, kind of the methodology behind it, and who you think is a good, who you think is the right person to take that course.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it away. We built the course because we had a lot of people ask us to show them how we did what we did, and that's also why we started the YouTube. And people kept saying, "Well, do you have a course?" It's like, no. So we ended up making one, and the goal is to keep it so simple no one believes it's how we actually did it, because it is actually that simple. And originally, when Christian and I started partnering and I showed Christian the Moses Lake market, I gave him a phone number and I said, you should call this person. And he asked, okay, what about? And I was like, well, you can ask to buy it, or you can ask to learn how they bought it. And he ended up doing both.
I just kind of blundered through it. If you give me a phone number, I'm going to call it, but I have no script for that.
Same way.
But he got all the way through the call, and that was when I think first time he realized, because it was the first time he did it, that people will just talk to you. And so we put the course together as an A to Z of, okay, this is how we did what we did. Yes, it does work. And we do deal deep dive for everything we've ever purchased. Yeah, we show addresses. So if you want to go tour the properties, you can. Let us know so we can go grab coffee together. But we just show exactly how we did each deal, where we found it, how the conversations went, how we underwrote it, how we structured the debt and the equity if we brought in a partner, because we have brought in partners on a couple deals. And if we bought them out, how we bought them out. And it's just exactly how we did what we did and how people can repeat that.
Nice. If you had to look at the last question I'll leave you with is, if you had to look at your game, right? So as elite investors, we all look at our game and we say, this is an area I need to get better. Where's that area for you guys?
From we got to talk a little bit before we started hitting record. We haven't figured out the bank debt thing all that much. Like it's all seller financing, which is awesome, and I'm all
It is
about
awesome.
relationship based. So like 1000%, I recommend playing the game this way. Like creative finance should be in your arsenal. However, you should be able to play creatively and conventionally. Playing one way is not a best practice. We actually called our company multifamily strategy because you're forming your own strategy. Everyone has a different strategy. I would like to learn that. I've done a few small residential stuff on a condo, a house, and 2 duplexes. We haven't introduced conventional debt into our portfolio yet.
Yeah, somehow I managed to find the one ageist person that runs the bank that says you haven't been doing this long enough. Your portfolio is bigger than most people we work with, and you hit every single box except for you haven't been in the business long enough.
Yeah,
I'm
we
like,
blew through underwriting.
yeah, we hit everything, and we're one of their most conservative loans.
Who was the no title, not name?
Who was the what?
Who is the person who said no?
It was the VP.
Yep, VP. It was actually the same person who they didn't like our appraisal. They're like, no, Central Washington can't get as high rents as you guys are getting. We're way under market. He's like, I just don't believe that, so I'm going to devalue the building. But we still hit all their metrics. So even when they changed the rules, we still blew through underwriting.
And then they're like, you can't get higher rents. Granted, we were getting like $800 rents at this place. Just down the street, we have a similar unit that's getting $975.
Yep. Yeah, I went through exactly the same. That's why I asked, is because I went through exactly the same thing with the bank. He goes, 1,600 tops. And I go, what would you like to bet? He goes, bet? I go, what do you want to bet? I'll be $2,000 all day long. I said, and you know what? Just to prove a point, I'm going to go to 22. I said, because I know the market. I said 2,000 was kind of conservative. I can get to 22. It's a stretch, but I can get there. And I bet I can get there within 2 weeks. First fourplex, I had just refinished, fourplex, 4-bed, 1.5 baths. And I got 2,200, 2,250 a month. And I got all 4 of them rented on the first weekend's open house.
Wow. Now, knowing banks and how conservative they are, I'm guessing they didn't actually take your bet.
So the VP did buy me lunch.
Hey.
Oh yeah, he bought me lunch. But best of all, that was our first decent sized deal together. And it's been smooth sailing since, because I always tell him, listen, all due respect, don't tell me the market. I'll ask you what the market is for an office building and what the price per square foot is. You can't tell me what the market is for a 4-bed, 1.5 bath, because in my area, much like your guys' areas, which are smaller, I actually own 18% of the 4 and 5 bedroom units in my market. So I said, not only do I know the market, I set the market, because no one else owns more than 2%.
That's how we are for 1-beds.
Perfect.
I dominate the 1-bed market. If you look at the CoStar data, you can see who manages and who owns the 1 and 2 beds, because the average for 1 and 2 beds is higher than 3 and 4 beds. We don't manage a single 3-bedroom unit in that whole market.
Interesting.
So we're getting higher rents.
Are all those legacy landlords?
Most of them. However, some of those deals, like there was just a deal that traded. We were supposed to be the highest transacting buyer, and then a month later, someone buys something for $34.8 million. It's like, oh, you got me beat. Can't do that. So there are some big players moving right now.
Yeah. We're certainly seeing that. Well, guys, thank you so very much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. Look forward to doing this again. And this old dog will learn a new trick. I will get a better than my garbage seller finance deal that I currently have. Because sadly, all 41 of my loans are with banks. So I am looking forward to doing more and more seller finance, because that is definitely part of my game that I am missing. So guys, appreciate you. Where can we find you, my friends? I want to make sure that everyone's checking out your channel.
Yeah, check out our YouTube channel. I'm sure Matt will drop a link for us below, but it's Cody and Christian Multifamily Strategy. If you're looking for our course, it's themultifamilystrategy.com.
Love it. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk again soon, I promise.
All right.
Sounds
Take
good.
care,
See
guys.
ya.